Hi, my name is Carrie Partch. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at UC Santa Cruz. In my lab, we study the molecular basis for biological timekeeping. This is fundamentally a process driven by clocks that live within each of your cells that keep track of how your cells function over the course of the day and coordinate behavior and physiology so that to place your life into the 24-hour world that we live in. Fundamentally, we think this is an interesting and important topic to study because these rhythms end up dictating how you interact with the world. For example, some of the proteins that we study that make up the clock, we know that you can inherit mutations in them from your parents that will affect whether you are a morning person or an evening person by controlling when the normal bedtime, your normal onset for bedtime comes on. And so ultimately in my lab, we're biochemists, and so what we are interested in studying is how the proteins of the clock work together with one another, like cogs in a clock, to make that 24-hour timing and control physiology. I got interested in becoming a scientist. Largely, I had always loved chemistry from a young age. My father actually went back to school when I was a child and took a chemistry course and ended up injuring his wrist in a soccer game. So I remember when I was 10 years old having to help him study for his general chemistry course that he took and thinking it was so cool to balance equations in chemistry. And so that really infected my sort of enthusiasm for science in high school and in college. And it was somewhere in the middle of my college experience where I realized that chemistry was really cool when it was married with the biological world. So I got interested in biochemistry to understand how our bodies work and what biochemistry can tell us about health and disease. I got here literally as a professor by following that interest as a student into the lab to learn how to become a research scientist. And that started through several experiences working as first a research technician at University of Oregon Health Sciences Center, or OHSU. I started off working in a lab full-time after I got my undergraduate degree. And this is where I really realized that I had the sort of stubborn characteristic of what I attribute to be a good scientist, that we have a lot of persistence and grit, and that when we get a hold of a question that we're passionate about, we won't stop until we get the answer. So it was my experience in this lab that really taught me that I had a good personality for doing science, that I was curious and wanted to persist on a question that I was interested in. From there, I went to graduate school at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I worked with Dr. Aziz Sanjar. That's where I first got interested in circadian rhythms, and which has been a passion of mine ever since. And it was really, one of the most amazing things we do as scientists is to follow our passions and follow something that we're interested in. And if along the way you happen to make an amazing discovery, that's kind of just incidental on top. And so what was really amazing was that in 2015, my graduate advisor, Aziz Sanjar, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his work following the mechanistic basis of DNA repair in humans and in bacteria. And it's this sort of drive and desire to get to the mechanistic basis of timekeeping, to pull apart the basic elements of biology and understand how it happens that really informs the work that we do in my lab. If I have to give one piece of advice to female scientists in training out there, it really would be to follow your passion. That if you find yourself interested in a certain type of science or a certain question, to really follow that passion, talk to people, talk to professors, talk to researchers about it, and develop that, because becoming a scientist takes a lot of hard work and a lot of training, and ultimately if you're passionate about what you're doing, you'll be happy to come into work day in and day out and really focus in on a piece of science and make a meaningful discovery.